Okay. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Polk County Board of Commissioners. It's February 9th, 2022. Extra agendas on the back table as you come. All commissioners are present. And first up to think is comments, not on this agenda.
So I have since I don't really have another spot in here, I have a letter that I have drafted on your drive from this board. I hope you will find it acceptable in support of Southwest Polk Fire District's grant application for a SAFER grant. So that's Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. SAFER is the acronym. And so I've basically indicated that we should support this grant and the reasons why. And I would say we would do this for any fire district that would ask us for that, but I've put together the words there. So I'd like you to consider that, please. It has to be turned in by Friday.
I did have a chance to read it. It reads wonderfully and I support it fully.
Thank you.
And I'm on board 100%. That is one of the most dangerous stretches of road we have that new highway district or their new fire districts on, and having an ambulance be able to respond and personnel there to fully house that 24/7, 100%. So yes.
Okay.
Hey.
So Nicole and I will get that taken care of and get your signatures. We'll get it off to him.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your help on that, Commissioner Pope. So next up's approval of minutes for February 2nd.
So moved.
And I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Mr. Chair,
Motion passes.
You gotta approve the agenda too.
I actually have one item we need to add to the agenda as well.
Okay,
Our years of service are usually held on today and we didn't get those placed on the agenda yet. So I have a couple of individuals to recognize today.
let's back this up. So we can go ahead and approve the minutes from February 2nd.
Mhm.
Then let's come back up for approval of the agenda. So we have an addition to the agenda. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So let's start with years of service.
Thank you.
Mr.
So we do have a couple of individuals we'd like to recognize today. Our first individual we'd like to recognize is unable to be here. I'm scanning to make sure that's true. But we'd like to recognize Nate Van Slockern for 10 years of service to Polk County in our behavioral health department. And then we have a person who is here. We'd like to recognize Donna Postma for 20 years of service to Polk County and also recognize her as the first woman cartographer of Polk County.
All right.
Yeah. Shake hands. Yeah, if you're okay with that, they'll shake.
I know. Good.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Halfway there.
Yeah.
Looking for another 20? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna.
My ex-bowling partner.
Okay. That's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. And next up, department updates. So Mr. Brent Demore. Brent Paul Demore. Absolutely.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Typed something up for y'all yesterday. I hope you have it. There's more in the written update that I'm going to go over verbally. There was just a few things that I wanted to bring your attention to and see if you had any questions. Are we ready?
Well,
Starting at the top, I think the thing that I want to discuss the most is the fact that the Family and Community Outreach Department in our resource center, we are going to begin offering services in the Monmouth Independence area beginning March 1st. We struck a pretty good deal with Central School District and at what they call the Ash Creek Annex, which is the church property they bought across from Ash Creek Elementary, right there on the border of Monmouth and Independence on 16th Street. They are allowing us to use one of the portable buildings that are there so we can set up shop every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, again, starting March 1st. And we will have staff out there, both bilingual, bicultural staff and English-speaking staff to offer resource center services now in 2 locations. So we'll maintain staff at the Dallas branch 5 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in Monmouth Independence. Additionally, we have our first injection of funding from the cities of Monmouth and the city of Independence, $25,000 from each city to use as client service funds at that site for Monmouth Independence residents. We'll be able to serve any resident of Polk County there, but if there are folks that specifically live in the Monmouth Independence area or have ties to the area or kids in the district, we'll be able to use those funds as any kind of barrier busting fund, rental assistance, deposit, utility help, all of the usual things that the Resource Center does. And the staff on Stephanie's team at the Resource Center have discretion how to use those within those categories. That's pretty exciting. None of those things have really happened in this format before. We did try services about 5 years ago in Monmouth Independence, just on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but at that time I didn't have any actual resource connector staff in the department. We were relying on other agencies to staff it. Didn't work out very well. I think it's going to be different this time. Currently, over 70% of all of our Resource Center clients in Dallas are from Monmouth Independence. So I think that we're going to meet people where they are rather than have them come to Dallas. I'll pause right there, see if there's any questions on sort of the outstationing part. Also wanted to let you guys know our partnership with Community Action Agency gets better and better, not even every year, about every few months, as we find ways really to be their hands and feet in Polk County. The Energy Assistance Program in the past, I'm making this up kind of, but you'll get the gist. If you had an energy assistance need and you lived in Polk County, you'd have to call a Salem number. Average hold time was between an hour to 2 hours while you waited on hold to then get an appointment to go to Salem for an energy assistance appointment. We now do all of that at the Resource Center. We do all of the appointments, we do all of the intake, screening, and eligibility. And just in the month of January, we connected $54,000 to Polk County residents. In the past, that number might have been under $10,000 for a year. So it's just a great partnership. I think the leadership at Community Action has seen, we have staff, we already have the clients, we know how to do this work. Let us do it and they can take all the credit and still pay for it. So I just wanted to highlight another nice thing about Community Action.
A question about that. Operationally, what did that look like to implement? Were there data systems you had to allow to communicate, or was it fairly simple? Was it literally just having people in your office understanding the process and helping out?
Yeah, eventually we'll probably have to use more of their data system if we want to complete it. Right now, our staff, so to answer your question, Commissioner, we learned their process, which is similar for all of the rest of the funding streams we already have from them. You know, you determine pay stubs and eligibility, and is there an emergency? Why do they have an energy assistance bill need? Is it going to be sustainable in the future? Like the things we do for almost every funding stream. So just learning to use their forms and their language and do it the way they want it, that part's a piece of cake. We do about 99% of everything. And then there's just one community action staff person who then checks it off and pays it. It used to be that they had to do all of it, meet the client, all that kind of stuff. So if we wanted to do the full meal deal, we'd have to use more of their computer systems, which we're fine with. We have HMIS license and we know how to do that stuff too. But right now this is working good.
Great.
So my question about it, Brent, is, and I'm probably going to have the same question on other services, but specific to the utility service assistance, how many times is a client eligible to get that in a year? And what is our program to help them get away from needing to do that in the future?
Good question. This particular funding stream through Community Action Agency means you can access it one time per year. So within a 12-month period, you can access assistance through Community Action Agency. There's been a few times that are rare where a family might have a different emergency. They don't qualify for this, but perhaps service integration comes in and helps a family, but those are vetted very, very well. We're not doing the frequent flyer thing where people just know their year's up and they can get money. So we're not really seeing a lot of abuse to it. As far as working with people on sustainability and how to really be thinking about those things, there aren't any programs currently. However, we are striking a partnership right now with Financial Beginnings in Portland. They've set aside funds for Polk County specifically as a pilot project to have a full-time, they call it a fellow. It's a paid fellowship for somebody to be here for 1 year And their entire job is to work with families that are struggling or low income on financial assistance, financial literacy, budgeting classes. So as soon as that person is hired and selected, they'll actually be stationed with us at the resource center, and it's completely free to clients.
Thank you.
So stuff coming in the future, but there's really nobody offering like budgeting classes or things like that right now. You mentioned Southwest Rural Polk Fire District. Mr. Hansen introduced me to the chief a couple weeks back, and it actually turned into a really cool relationship. And my staff just went out with me and we presented to their team on all the different resources. And we heard from the paramedics and the firefighters on what is the most common things that they need. And we were able to give them resources or action for just about all of them. It also turned into an amazing conversation that at all 3 firehouses now, we are going to be able to provide them with a refrigerator, and they are going to start distributing food for us to anybody in the community in those areas. Although you guys have the flyer about our food delivery program, the idea at the firehouses was literally yesterday at 10:30 in the morning. So we haven't decided, like out at Salt Creek, it's going to be something like every Thursday from 12 to 6. You can stop by there and pick up food boxes, non-perishable and perishable food. They are also going to carry food boxes with them on the ambulance and on their fire trucks for every time they respond, because they often are going somewhere and the first thing that people need is they don't have access to food. So that's a pretty cool partnership. All of that will be funded through the grant we got from Business Oregon to do food delivery. And also they're going to host quarterly events on Saturdays that we're going to help them with on just open houses and basic health screenings happening at each of the fire stations that they have, the 3 that they have, and then some basic resources, including food, and they're going to do hot dogs for the community, you know, things like that. But just a cool relationship, and thanks, Greg, for introducing me to Fred. And they're abusing us right now, but that's okay, because we're going to get something out of it too. Abusing us in a good way, good partnership way. So really
If I
that
go
just,
to that quarterly thing for hot dogs, is that considered, I get a check for a healthy routine? I get a health
Yeah.
check?
you can get a health check and suck down a sausage dog. Just do the health check
Just want to
first.
make sure I'm getting all the credits
Get your-
available to me. Yeah.
There'll be tofu dogs
Oh,
served on seaweed bread.
Thank you.
Deep fried.
Those are some fun people. They are good people out there. So that,
Firefighters know how to, I got to plug this in. Firefighters, if it can use mustard, they're going to eat it. So they're famous for that.
Ben and I did come back, Matt, feeling like we needed another couple of HR trainings to make sure that we were okay after hanging out at the firehouse for an hour. So they're all together there for long periods of time, if you know what I mean. Well, that leads into both the child care assistance and food delivery program, both funded by Business Oregon, both grants of $250,000 each. They're both up and running. We had our first signups yesterday for the child care program, and this young mom was so excited. She just kept saying, I can't believe you're going to help me pay my child care. For 3 months, you're going to help me pay my child care. She has 3 kids under 6. So her child care bill is over $1,500 a month. And she's working a job that's barely over minimum wage. It just doesn't equate. So this is going to allow her to have a break, and she's applying for different jobs as well. So we're excited about that. Reminder that both the food delivery program and the child care assistance program can't assist West Salem per federal guidelines. Salem is in its own federal designation. So anybody in zip code 97304, we can't assist with these 2 programs per grant guidelines, but the rest of rural Polk County, we can. I am going to skip some of this stuff unless you guys have specific questions on it, and just go to the back of this page and just talk about, we feel really blessed that the county has provided the 3 extra staff using ARPA funds for school-based mental health. The district central specifically has funded 2 additional staff, and the need is really great after so much social isolation and all of these kids not being in school, then coming back to school. We've seen more kids in the first 4 months of school than in a typical pre-COVID year for the entire school year. Some of that is because we also have some more staff, but even if we didn't have those, the numbers would be staggering on just how much need there is. Districts are already talking about adding even more staff for next school year, just because kids need that social, emotional, mental health support. And the last thing I wanted to update you guys on is, about 2 years ago, you funded a pilot project to do high school internship programs in Polk County. COVID really slowed that down a bit, but we have some funding now. We have 38 kids on a waiting list in the Dallas area. We have over 17 businesses signed up to do high school internships, and that cohort will be starting in March for spring. And just a great opportunity for local high school youth to have a job internship, possibly in a field that they want to work. They have to do at least 80 hours at that internship, and upon completion, if they meet all the criteria, they could receive an educational stipend. And also the host site also gets a stipend for being so gracious of hosting students. It's a really popular thing. Both the youth and the local businesses love it, and we'll be starting that back up again in March. Those are our updates.
On the high school internship, are you working with Mona and the Central School District on that within their program as well, or?
Yeah, we've worked loosely with them. They're two really, really different programs. And right now, as far as capacity goes, we're just doing the Dallas area until we have more. It takes funding. We need more funding to expand it to Central, Falls City, and other places in the county. Right now, our funding is pretty limited, so we're just sticking with the area that we've had the most success. The students get high school credit, which is really an important part. They are also still school district students when they go to the internship. Insurance is a huge part. Those two things are missing in what Mona is planning in the Monmouth Independence area. Neither of those things exist, the school credit part and the insurance part. And the first thing a business asks is, so there's a 17-year-old student at my business, how's that covered by insurance? Well, it's just like any other extracurricular activity, sports or otherwise, they are a student of the district during that time. So until we can get some of those things on board, it may not be that we're meshing completely.
That's fine.
But the desire to have only one kind of high school internship program, and students would much rather receive a stipend, and school credit. That would be their choice. So we're not going to infringe on what's happening over there right now, until we have more money, until there's a better partnership.
So did you discover any pathways to additional dollars for workforce development in your conversation with Dean Craig this week?
I mentioned to Dean yesterday at the beginning of the meeting that there hasn't been any further communication from the nonprofit that they brought in and that person they introduced us to. And he seemed to take notes on it and said he'll get back to us. But at this point, no. The only funding we have is
my point of view. And again, I'm wearing two hats at the moment here, but this kind of stuff doesn't work without a direct collaboration of the workforce board and the agency that represents the workforce board. And every time I bring up something like this with the staff team there, it's like, oh, no, we have money for these kinds of things. How come somebody's not asking us? Well, in this case, it would be the schools that need to do that, but in the past. But since we're working this on their behalf, more or less, we probably should be more aggressive with regard to, hey, you got to help us here. This is direct workforce investment. So we need those dollars. They have access to state and federal dollars. I'm trying to find a pathway right now to see how I can accept the language in a $200 million bill that the governor's putting out there that doesn't have any of this kind of thing in it. And I want to fight for that. But the challenge we have is, again, we have to do it in direct collaboration with school systems, all school districts that we want to work with. And it's really hard. But as a workforce board representative, I want to be able to tell legislators, we have tools that could work, but nobody wants to put the dollars into them to really make them work like they should. So I think we have an audience, we have students that want to do this stuff. You know that, you've got experience with that. But we have to have school districts that see the value in it. And we certainly have to have a workforce system that says we're standing here waiting. To the point you asked about Mona, I mean, she's a contractor.
Right.
Her agency's a contractor working under the same challenges and restrictions that we're experiencing. So there's pathways to get solutions on the ground for some of these problems that we know exist. We've got to get students exposed to opportunities to work their hands and their mind together. And when we run into these bureaucratic bars, we got to call it out.
Well, I'll use your connection, Commissioner, to get back at them.
Yeah,
I remember
happy
the
to.
meeting you introduced me to, all I did was say, give me money, give me money, give me
Yeah.
money. This is already established. It's been going for 2 years.
That's all Willamette Workforce Partnership is about. It's a management agency to manage dollars to get distributed to the community. That's what they're there for. So it's okay. Keep asking them.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, do you have a need for an executive session, sir?
Yes, sir. The board will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660 sub 2E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions.